So what we got here is the front bumper cover. They come in two halves, left half and the right half, and vacuum molded plastic. And the air intake, that's not cut out, and neither is, if you choose to run them, brake ducts. They're not cut out either. And the other thing that is not cut out is, let me bring it over. You see right here, I don't know if you can notice, but there are some divots for where the bumper bar goes. Right in there. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it or not. There you go. So you can see those divots, those black dots. That's how you know where the divots go. Or that's how you know where the bumper bar goes. And you have to cut those out. So one of the easiest ways to do this, and this is just right according to the, let me see if I can't bump this up a little bit so you can actually see me as well. You can hear my dogs going crazy in the background for apparently no reason whatsoever. So straight from the 5-star installation video, the body installation video, they say the easiest way to do this is on top of a table. You can do it on the ground. Ground works perfectly fine as well. But 20-something years of hockey, my back doesn't like being on the ground. So what we'll do is we'll just take these, spin them around. And you can butt them up against each other. Now they're going to be flopping all over the place until you get the some of the clamps into place. So the clamps that we use, these things are big, and actually one of the more advantageous things of using the floor is that they can just sit a little more flat. This isn't a very big table, but once you get everything clamped together, it kind of supports itself instead of like flopping down over the sides, you know, because the side portion is the bumper cover, kind of hang over the sides, and just how it's molded, it just kind of falls and flops and things like that. I would use these boards here, but I don't want to mess them up because these boards are going in my little man cave downstairs. They're going to be shelving for some die casts and stuff like that. So the best thing to do, like these are just little 1-inch ones. Okay, so these 1-inch little clamps, they fit really nicely in the flanges of how everything's modeled. And what you do is you get them close. All right, so you don't want to start with them all the way out here because you're trying to hold two halves of that clamshell together, and you're trying to wind this together and hold it. So you need like 8 hands. You need to be like an octopus. So if you just put it like this, relatively close, maybe a little less than a ½ an inch, maybe, you know, a little over a ⁻4 inch, less than a ½ inch, doesn't really matter. We're not getting into nuclear physics, but it makes the process go a lot faster. So where you're gonna put these at, you have to like think ahead of where you're gonna be putting whatever connecting hardware you're going to be using. So I use nuts and bolts, and so you want up here at the top, but yeah, you want it up at the top, and then yeah, I usually put it at all the joints. So right, so there's a little bit of a bend here in the mold. There's a bend here, right there. There's a bend down here. And that's about as much as you're going to get, because we're going to cut all this portion out. We're going to cut this portion out. Well, not all this. Do not cut this out. You need this. You're going to cut the inside of this out. Okay, you're going to leave the tops and the bottoms, because that is what gets connected to the air tunnel, or whatever you want to call it, the air cowling, or whatever you want to call it. But that's where that goes. So I'll put these clamps together, and it may take you a few tries. You don't want to clamp it down super tight, because you still want to be able to have a little bit of wiggle room so you can move the pieces and make sure that the lines line up properly and everything is flush. So if you just do it snug, the plastic will still slide a little bit. But the one thing I do need to do, it'll stay right here. It probably won't. I'll put in another one just to kind of keep things together while I go grab a pen. Just because everything's white, it's really hard to see the precise like ridges of things. It's actually really hard to see that. So thing still wants to flop all over the place. I'll put another one down here. Hopefully that'll do it. There. This is one of those times where having an extra set of hands does help, but you can do it without more people. So this is just roughly putting everything together. Nothing is in its final position. So nothing is really completely snugged down or tightened. Everything's just a little snug. We'll be able to put this there. Let's see if it stands up by itself a little bit better. Yep, see, there it does. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. I need to get a pen. I'm actually taking you guys with me, so I guess I can just keep talking. But my pens weren't anywhere near. So on the front of this and the ridges, and let me see if I can't get you a little bit closer. There. That's me. You don't want to see me. So on these ridges here, you can actually set this right on the, use the car too, so that works. So right in here, this is where the hood is going to sit inside of this recess here, and none of this is actually square and where it needs to be. There's ridges. Like this part's not lined up properly. The front of the bumper is not lined up properly. That isn't lined up properly, but we'll get there in a second. One of the first things, we kind of take this in sections. You kind of work your way down as you go. So you can take your pen and work it in the groove whenever the pens want to work. And make a nice mark so you can see where everything is. My pen's drying out. Either my pen's drying out or it doesn't like the whatever coating is on. The pen's drying out, or it doesn't like the coating that's on that bumper cover. And we'll actually get to that. This is a good. You need a nice sharp Sharpie. One that maybe hasn't been used 1,000 times. That one's been used a billion times. That's probably one of the first Sharpies I ever owned. So same with that one. So here, this Sharpie is going to be a little bit better. All right. So just use a Sharpie. This is actually kind of tight, and you can just drop it in that groove. You can see where it comes together, and then you can start lining those lines up, right? So like I said, you can start kind of massaging things where there needs to be. This could be a little less tight. I guess I tightened these up a little too much. This one's really tight. All right. So tighten these up just a bit. Move these where they need to be. Try and get them as close as possible. And you want them as flush as possible as well, because if you don't do that, then the whole thing gets screwy. It's a little easier to push from behind too. So these, that's good. This could be a little bit better. I'm a big, I don't know if you guys ever seen Mel Gibson movie The Patriot, but I'm a big aim small, miss small kind of a person. So I have the tendency to hurry, and anytime you hurry, especially doing stuff like this, it gets expensive because you start making mistakes, you start ruining pieces, and you don't want to do that. So the longer you take measuring all this stuff up, the better the end result is going to be, and the happier you're going to be with it. There. Alright, now we're starting to move things around a good amount. So that one can be tightened. So I'm kind of working my way down on all my clamps. And this clamp is kind of loose. Here's kind of loose. Because once you drill, you're done. Right? So once you start putting holes in here, you're finished. And the issue is, you know, well, you can put another hole in, sure. You put another hole, and another hole, and another hole. It's just one of those things that do it right the first time, and you don't have to worry about issues the next time. Now, ooh, that came out real nice right there. Okay. This does take a little bit of work and a little bit of time to do it properly. So we're good front to back, but they're a little like this. So I almost didn't have to go down there because of some people of some local folks that live up here near Marquette. They're ordering body parts for their car too. Actually, it's their grandfather's old late model, who was pretty much a legend around here. And a very, very nice guy. Whenever I first got into racing, he was always had a kind word. He was an older gentleman. I forget how old Mr. Yell was whenever he passed a few years ago. But like I said, he was a good man. And anytime I would see him at the track or anything like that, he always gave me words of encouragement. His family was the same way. They always would help me out and give me advice and things like that. And it was always much appreciated. This is all pretty close. I'm getting a little happier with it. This top one can be locked in. This middle one can be locked in. So right where the bumper cover goes can be locked in. And this one can be locked in. Just to show you what I'm doing on the back side is I'm just locking all these in as I go. So just working from the top, working my way down, and seeing what I can come up with as far as how all this is going to go together. So then down here at the bottom, you want this nice and flush too. So put one right here. And another thing you can do, I mean, you don't really have to, I guess you don't really have to pre-plan where you're going to put all these C-clamps, because you can just put them wherever, and once you get it set, you can just work your way down, drilling and putting in bolts. So you drill one hole, put a bolt in it, drill the next hole, put a bolt in it. Oh, very nice. Let me see if I can get a couple clamps. And they work a little bit better. Also got some clamps from Harbor Freight. These little cats, they work pretty good. They don't, you know, I'll be honest, they don't have a ton of clamping force that I like. But they sort of get the job done, I guess, because like, see, you can just move the stuff around, and you know, that isn't really what you want. See, that's as far as it can go. But that seems to work well enough that it should keep everything where it needs to be. So flip this back around, put it back over on the car again. And one of the big reasons why you kind of want all this stuff lined up is because there's going to be decals. So you got the headlight decal that goes here. You have a huge decal that goes down here in this recess. That's like the grill. And then you have a couple more over here, but those ones don't really matter because they're not anywhere near the really where a decal is going to be, or a recess, I should say. So want to make sure that those are lined up. And I mostly do this even more by feel than I do anything else. Okay. This is never going to be perfect. I mean, it's an assembly line kind of a product, and that's, I'm not trying to be insulting to a 5-star. I know they try to be as accurate as possible with their molds and stuff like that. Believe me, these things are gorgeous. But nothing is ever going to be absolutely perfect. I mean, especially whenever you're talking about something that's probably going to end up in the back of somebody else's car by like the 3rd race of the season. So, not that I want to run anybody over. Sometimes it just happens. So. come over here. So you have this bar here that comes up underneath. So this is going to need to be notched. Okay. That's why I didn't really put a clamp here. So this is going to need to be notched out. And then actually I'm going to move this clamp down a little bit, because that's going to be one of the first places that I put, drill a hole and put a screw in there. Start putting some hardware in. So this is going to be notched out right here, just to the back of this lip. You see where the recess where the hood's going to go in. And there's actually holes, and I think I used, yeah. So everywhere that you see a dimple here is where I put in drilled it out, and that's where I put in a rivet. So you can see along the top. If I can't put this over here without dropping the thing or ripping out all my clamps. So across the top you can see all these dimples all along the top here. So that's where we're going to drill, because I like reusing stuff. And this upper brace for the hood, I think that's what it's called. Hood pin kits. So this is a hood pin bracket, I guess you want to call it. Yep, hood pin bracket. So I'll be able to like use the same holes in this as I did before, and I made sure to be really careful whenever I drilled out the rivets to begin with, that they weren't. I didn't elongate the holes, so they would still be able to be used again. So you have to be super careful whenever you're doing this, because number one, you don't want to take off any more material than you absolutely have to, and you also don't want to hurt yourself. This is relatively soft plastic. So you can actually, you see how easily this goes through it. I think on the installation video from 5 Star, I think they use a saw through in here, which makes sense because it's easier. But this works just as well. I'm just taking off a little bit at a time. There. Sorry about that. They went for a little bit of a ride. And although it may look like I'm coming close to my arm with this, I'm really not coming that close to my arm with it. So have no fear. You want to make this go a little bit faster. I have to find snips. This makes it go super fast. Alright, let's get this all out of here. These snips work really well, actually. I just thought about this. And you don't really have to worry about, you know, cutting through the material like you would if you had a saw going or anything else. You'd just be able to, you know, do that. And if you want to clean this up here to get a little bit more flush, you can do that. A heck of a lot easier now. It's really easy to get freaked out about, you know, you have this brand new beautiful panel. It's really easy to get freaked out about, I don't want to screw it up. But you kind of get over that the first couple times you do things. So it's not as bad anymore. Because as soon as you remember, you're going to be racing this thing. And it's going to get in an accident, right? I mean, you're going to scuff it up. It's going to be in an accident. And this is what it is. So there. So you got that. And now you can see that it goes right up into that recess really, really nicely. So you want, we'll use some more clamps whenever we get to that part. You want it flush because it is bent and it's pre-molded, pre-bent if you can see that. It's pre-bent to this radius, so it just pops right up against the flush with the actual molding part, and then you can just put you can just clamp it, drill it, rivet it, and then you can start installing the nose in the proper location, which is what we'll end up doing hopefully tonight after this. So that should be great, because that's the next big step. Everything on the car, body-wise, is positioned properly. It's in the proper place. I mean, technically, I guess I could put the doors on right now, but I'm kind of excited to get this taken care of. And you can do it really after you get the greenhouse positioned properly in the back of the car, the rear quarters and the rear bumper cover on. You can kind of do different things in different orders after that, so it's not that big of a deal. And my hands are dirty, and this is going to get painted, but my hands are dirty, but that's all right because we're going to wash this first with dish soap. We're going to rinse a little bit of bejesus out of it. So we're gonna wash it really, really well with a scrubby. So like a scrubby that you used to do your dishes with, we're gonna use it on here, because if you don't, okay, so it comes out of the molds with a film on it, okay, so you have really a non-paintable surface. And with these plastic parts, they also have a 5-star cells, and you can get it pretty much anywhere, but it's a plastic prep that you put on first for painting. That won't adhere very well to this, because there is nothing worse than not prepping your plastic pieces, especially your nose piece, properly, painting it, thinking that it's good, put your decals on, go, oh, that decal's off a little bit, pull the decal off, and it rips up the paint. Just pulls the paint right off of the plastic. There's nothing worse than that, because you just ruined an entire decal. So we're going to properly wash this before we start to paint it, and that includes the plastic prep. And 5-star sells its own plastic prep, so keep that in mind. They also sell their own windshield stuff. So I hate that, like I never complain that I'm too tall, but I'm like half off of the screen here. But I want you to see what I'm doing down here. And I also want you to be sort of closer. I don't want you to be like across the garage. So for their windshields, they sell their own windshield cleaner. I'm a big fan of always using the company's stuff. You know, everyone's going to say something different. You know, everybody has their own opinions. Everybody has their favorite stuff that they use for whatever jobs they may be doing. But I'm not saying other stuff out there wouldn't work. I just like going with what the company sells and to go with their products, because they like to tend to design things to work together. So, and if something ever goes wrong and you ever call a company, they're like, well, what did you prep it with? What did you clean it with? And you're going to say like, oh, brand Z. They're like, ah, yeah, that is good for your everyday driver, but that's not good for the protective layer that we have on our NextGen windows. Shouldn't have done that. Sorry. So, I always like to keep things in-house. So let's get this to drilling. I'm going to go get some all the stuff I'm going to need to start drilling all this and putting it together, and be back in a sec. So got everything in place. Got everything is close to lined up as I think I can make it, and I think we're going to be good to go to start assembling this thing. So unfortunately, I can't find my 3/16 drill bit that fits into my cordless drill. Fits into my little cordless drill here. I don't know what happened to it. It was here just the other day. Now it's gone. So, number 10, nuts and bolts. Yes, I'm still crazy for using these, but guess what? It works. And I like it. So, washers, little fender washers. I believe these are from Racing Rivets. And my OCD, I like to put the bolts in so the bolts go in the direction of the, is it centrifugal force or centrifugal force? Whatever. Centrifugal force is going to throw the bolts to the outside of the track. So this is the left side, this is the right side. I want the bolts going this direction. Is that a little crazy? Perhaps. But, so if the nut falls off, and these things are in there pretty tight, so it's not like I think that they're going to fall off. But like I said, my OCD just is a little happier with that orientation. Done. All right. So people are like, well, you use rivets. Because not only is it faster, lighter. I have that in a different video, and I told one of the board members today, whenever I had to drive down to the track and get our new tires for the season, and I was telling him, I was like, I'm going to do something crazy, and everyone's going to laugh at me. I know it. And he's like, what? And I said, I'm going to put everything together using nuts and bolts. And he went, why? And I explained it to him, and one of the things I said was, I honestly thought that this stuff here, you would think that this stuff here, 2 washers, a nut and a bolt, would be heavier than a rivet and a backup washer. It's not. It's lighter. If I remember, like I said, I did a video somewhere else and my microphone wasn't working all that great. Actually, it wasn't working at all because the cord that they included didn't actually work with the receiver that goes into the back of the camera, which is odd. But hey, whatever. I'll just have to do a voiceover on it. But rivets and a backup washer, aluminum rivets, backup washer, might be a steel backup washer, was like 8 grams. And all of this together was like 6 grams. So I was ready to just eat the bullet of like, okay, it's a little bit lighter. I'm going to use like 75 of them and I'm going to lose 2 pounds or whatever. I'm going to lose 5 pounds. But lo and behold, they're lighter. And also, once these things go together, I can take this all back apart easily, quickly, because I can paint it in 2 halves, which is a lot more convenient than painting it a hole, because what I've done before is I'd paint the entire car, and you really can't get, because they're flange fits, and it's really hard to kind of like make sure all the paint gets down into the joints where the flanges come together, because sometimes they're wide enough that you can see a gap, but they're not wide enough to let paint really go down inside. And I'm also a crappy painter, along with a crappy welder. So, I just like taking things apart and painting it, piece by piece. And the lighting in here isn't good. I could take a piece over to like the workbench, and I can just shoot it right here, and it'll come out a heck of a lot better than just me trying to shoot an entire car in a 2-car garage with crappy lighting and all this other kind of stuff. So this is how I'm going to do it. And the nuts and bolts allow me to actually do that without waste. And then the other thing too is these nuts and bolts, reusable. Use them over and over and over and over and over again. So you save money in the long run. So yeah, so that's the first one. And I'll come down here into this joint down here, or this bend, whatever you want to call it. Put another one. Gotta be super careful not to shoot the, because this is a lot easier if I had the bit for this little gun, because it's a lot smaller than an actual drill. You can see how much smaller it is. So the drill, you kind of like have to bend and work it to get into place, but we do what we can. Let's clean up these holes a little bit. Now, putting things together takes a little bit longer than rivets, granted, but taking things apart is faster, because heaven forbid if you have a rivet and your drill bit's a little bit dull, it doesn't go directly down inside, then your rivet's off to the side, then your hole's all screwed up, or your drill bit goes off to the side and it starts wandering all over the place, and your drill bit's messed up, or your hole's messed up, I should say, and then that's even more big of a pain in the butt. So, like I said, I'm a big proponent of using nuts and bolts. Call me crazy, that's fine. This would actually go together a little bit better if I kind of like moved after I got the drill bit through, kind of like made the hole a little bit bigger. It would go together a little better, but just an extra couple seconds. Good. Now we can start taking off clamps. Get that one together. And I have to double check. I think this part gets cleaned off too. I think it has to. Give me just a second. I'm going to go check on the air box and to see how it gets mounted here. So give me just a second. I'll be right back. All right. So the way I had it before, the air box, I notched the air box so this could stay in here. I guess I was thinking this will give it a little more rigidity. to keep that in place. So that is what I am going to do. And if you missed the other video, these are all nylon lock washers, and I get my hardware from Grainger. Honestly, I really didn't do a price comparison between everybody, but I just happened to do a Google search on the sizes that I needed, and Grainger happened to come up. I really didn't even look in 5-star, and I should have, just to see what their prices are on their hardware, but I didn't. Together. I usually am wearing PPE, but I totally forgot to put it on just now. Last thing I want is some plastic in my eye. I'll go get it in a second. Because my career just happens to revolve around my eyes. So if I screw up my eyes, I screw up my career. I do not want to do that. Done. Alright, let me go get my PPE. So, DeWalt safety glasses, they're comfortable. Never had an issue with them. They get really close to your skin, so there really isn't a lot of potential for debris to bypass the lens and the frame and stuff. And as long as I can keep track of them, I've never had a problem. They haven't broken or anything. They're usually pretty good. So there, I'm all PP'd up. Let's put a few more in here. And now that we have everything pretty much in there, like the other bolts in, we can just drill more holes. We don't have to worry about things lining up because they pretty much will. And another big thing, like I said about using nuts and bolts, especially for stuff like this. The outside of the body, where it's really easy to access a drill. Like, I mean, you know, you rivet your door on. I mean, the rivets are right there. When you start getting in here, when everything is connected in the car and you're trying to get like a drill in here to drill this rivet out, because you can put the rivet in and it's a little crooked, but whenever it snugs up, it'll go straight. Well, you may not have the clearance to get a drill in there, you know, straight. You may have a 90-degree attachment for your drill, and that usually helps a little bit. Especially you can find those little snub drill bits. They work out really well, but now you're buying extra stuff, you know, whereas here, you just take this all apart, especially like during the season where you don't really have that much time, you know, in between races, especially, you know, somebody like me with the family and stuff like that. I don't have time to sit in the garage for like 6-7 hours a day, you know, go to work, come home, and go directly into the garage like I used to whenever I was single, you know. The kids, I come home from work, the wife comes home from work, we're busy with the kids until, you know, they finally go to sleep at 9 o'clock. So being able to take this stuff apart whenever I need to is very, very more efficient. And that's what I'm looking for, efficiency. And like I said, it takes more time to put this stuff together initially than it does later on. So yeah, this does seem to be a little more time consuming than a rivet. I mean, like a rivet would be done by now, but once the holes are already drilled, you know, it's a lot easier just to do this stuff. Like I said, I've been doing it for years. So I tried it with the first car I built, and I'm like, never again. Never again. All right, so where else can we put some? Another one right there. And yes, I'm putting in a lot because the previous years I haven't put in that many. And any sort of bump, you know, you get in the back of somebody even lightly, and it'll all the stress starts to get focused on like one or two of these bolts, and then it breaks. But another failure point on these noses are the seams, especially this seam right here up along the top. That just seems to be where the stress all focuses, and it just cracks open, and that it sucks because it tears and you can't get it back together again. Honestly, what I would like to see from 5-star, because they have on here, they actually make backup plates and stuff that go along here. So it gives it a little more strength versus just a couple washers that tend to get pulled through whenever you're in an incident. What I would like would be freaking awesome is at least for up here, have a formed L bracket that takes that stress away from the actual front bumper cover. And maybe that would keep that a little more rigid, and you wouldn't be tearing up bumper covers, literally tearing bumper covers apart. Because once that happens, it's ruined. You really can't even fix it. That kind of sucks. Done. All right. So we'll flip this over and work on the bottom portion. I wonder whose dog that is. Because the neighbors have a dog. Oh yeah, there's a dog over there. I hope it's not my dog. No, I don't think so. They have a family next door have teenage daughters and a trampoline, so they're out there having fun tonight. Because we finally have a nice, the weather's finally starting to break. So like we had like a 60 degree few days like a week and a half ago, then it dropped back down into the 20s and the 30s. And it's just starting to break again this weekend, and hopefully we will be for real in spring. But hopefully, we'll see. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan makes no promises. All right, you see this down here? Okay. So let's keep working our way down, and we'll put a rivet in right here. And I'm still double checking, and it is still relatively close enough. Like I said, it's not perfect. But this part here is pretty important. I'm just feeling it with my hands because it has to be, this has to be really, really close to being perfect, just because this is where the screen sits. The radiator screen sits right here. So that has to be really close because you don't want a whole heck of a lot of room. All right. That's right, that dog's barking. It's not super annoying. I mean, we have 4 dogs at the house and they go crazy every once in a while too. But I'll get my revenge whenever I fire up the race car. I'm going to go back to drilling. Drill a hole, put a bolt in. Drill a hole, put a bolt in. Just because it's still a little flimsy down here. And things can move around. Inadvertently. Oh wait, this is the wrong bolt. It's a 32 pitch. It's a 32 pitch, not a 24 pitch. Good. And another one. So that was a little off, probably like 1/8 of an inch off, but it is what it is. You really can't change it now. I made sure the one area was flush where the radiator screen goes. What did I do with that, by the way? Ah, there it is. So this is the radiator screen, and I guess it's called radiator screen. What is this thing called? I forget what it's called. This. It goes up. I'm doing so many brain farts, man. I don't know what the heck the deal is on names of things. It's one of those things like you never really think about it while you're just doing it, but when you're trying to explain it to people, you just come up blanks. Done. All right. So, here is the front bumper cover. Almost ready for installation. We still have to do this top part here. And show you how that goes. And for that, you can take these C-clamps all the way out. I think maybe it'll be enough. Yeah, it'll be enough. These are 1-inch C-clamps. I think this is like 3/4 inch square tubing. Doesn't really matter, but yeah. 3/4, they call it square round, which I always thought was really weird. But you can use the clamps first, because these things make things just a tad bit easier. We can get close with this. Yeah, so that's off. Let's see if we can pull that. So they're actually here. This is important. So I might not be able to use the same drill holes. But if you see right there, you see that line? That's from the factory. Okay, I didn't make that line. So this line is from the factory. And that line goes right on the seam. Okay, on the center seam here, where the two halves come together. That's where that goes. So sometimes you really, I guess I'm not going to be able to use the same holes on everything, but hopefully I can get close enough. All right, got the phone ringing. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back again. And we're going to try and make sure that we're going to put all this stuff together properly. So that's right there flush. It's flush over here. And you're not going to get it perfectly flush all the way across, but as long as it's pretty close, in like key areas, you'll be fine. The only issue that we may run into is whenever we start talking about, this is starting to get heavy, is whenever we start talking about the hood pin locations on the actual hood itself. So if these are off a little bit, they may be off a little bit, and we will cross that very uncomfortable bridge whenever we get there, because I really, really, really need the hood to fit, because I don't want to buy another hood. Worst comes to worst, you can fill the holes in the fiberglass hood with fiberglass filler, sand it, and then just redo everything like it's a brand new hood. So that's another option that you can make, that you can have. But hopefully we'll be all right. But the thing with race car bodies is they are custom fit every time you put them on. No matter how much you try and keep all the pieces the same, mount them on the exact same way, it just seems that no matter what you do, there will always be some variation in installations. Now, like I said, that is not a diss on 5-star or anything like that. Their products are awesome. It's just the nature of the beast. All right, so here are that. We can start taking. Well, let's just leave that on, actually. I don't think I have any more 1-inch C-clamps. I might, but I don't know where they're at. All right, so I'm going to go grab rivets, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back again, and we're going to try and make sure that we're going to put all this stuff together properly. So that's right there flush. It's flush over here. And you're not going to get it perfectly flush all the way across, but as long as it's pretty close, in like key areas, you'll be fine. The only issue that we may run into is whenever we start talking about, this is starting to get heavy, is whenever we start talking about the hood pin locations on the actual hood itself. So if these are off a little bit, they may be off a little bit, and we will cross that very uncomfortable bridge whenever we get there, because I really, really, really need the hood to fit, because I don't want to buy another hood. Worst comes to worst, you can fill the holes in the fiberglass hood with fiberglass filler, sand it, and then just redo everything like it's a brand new hood. So that's another option that you can make, that you can have. But hopefully we'll be all right. But the thing with race car bodies is they are custom fit every time you put them on. No matter how much you try and keep all the pieces the same, mount them on the exact same way, it just seems that no matter what you do, there will always be some variation in installations. Now, like I said, that is not a diss on 5-star or anything like that. Their products are awesome. It's just the nature of the beast. All right, so here are that. We can start taking. Well, let's just leave that on, actually. I don't think I have any more 1-inch C-clamps. I might, but I don't know where they're at. All right, so I'm going to go grab rivets, and I'll be right back. All right, so I just got through drilling the first hole over here. We're going to put in some rivets, if I can get there. If they actually want to go in, it's being difficult. Elongate that hole a little bit. There we go. Got this blind rivet drill adapter, which works awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I'm going to skip a few just so I can get both sides kind of up. You know what? You can see if I can't get a piece of wood to shore this up with, because this is a bit of a pain in the butt. Trying to have this suspended up in the air. Ain't gonna work. Let me see if I can get a few more pieces of wood here. That way I can push down on this and not have to put my hand in harm's way. And it's always good to have some pieces of wood laying around. 4x4s are great, especially for things like this. All right. Not perfect, but I think it'll. World of difference. You know, I actually said I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to put them together. Dang it! So I'm not going to. I'm not going to rivet these in. I'm just going to get stuff into place. Like I said, I still want to maybe take these apart, or maybe just say the hell with this. Maybe I can just get some mobile lighting and move the lighting around while I'm painting. Yeah, I think that might be a little bit simpler now that I come to think about it. I mean, it would be nice to have these things like up on the table and just spraying them, but 6 in one hand, 1/2 dozen in the other, I guess. And you put things together once, they're together. So put them together, taking them apart, painting, then putting them back together again. Yeah, the heck with it. Call them audible, as they say. And you're going to find you're going to do that a lot when you're doing stuff like this. You know what I also found? When you're using drills and drilling holes, you don't have to go full bore, hold the thing wide open. You tend to use up your drill bits faster. Because if you look at a drill press, the drill press doesn't rotate that fast. You know, it's not spinning at 35, 4,500 RPM. It probably isn't even spinning at 700 or 800 RPM. Move my supports over a little bit. These drill bits are getting old.